You're listening to Radio Long Island City, recorded at our studios near Hell Gate, 9 kilometers north of the Harbor Hill Moraine. And now, the Observatory. The Observatory, Friday the 13th of February, 2026. It is 54 days after the winter solstice. It is 35 days before the spring equinox. The sun rises today at 6:52 a.m. Solar noon takes place today at 12:10 p.m. The sun sets today at 5:28 p.m., civil twilight ends at 5:56 p.m., and nautical twilight ends at 6:28 p.m. The length of daytime today is 2 minutes, 28 seconds longer than yesterday. The moon is in its waning crescent phase and is 14% full at midday. The moon rises today at 4:43 a.m., and then it sets at 1:25 p.m. The new moon will arrive on Tuesday, the 17th of February. These are the predicted tides today for Horns Hook. In the middle of the night, low tide, 12:23 a.m., 15 centimeters. In the morning, high tide, 8:16 a.m., 1 meter 43. In the afternoon, low tide, 2:45 p.m., minus 6 centimeters. At night, high tide, 9:06 p.m., 1 meter 31. In our shared realm of plants and animals, with Valentine's Day just around the corner, our minds turn to love, or perhaps simply mating. We mentioned a few weeks ago that possums breed in the winter, but they're not the only ones. February is prime mating season for skunks. Now we have few skunks right around here, but in the more wild parks to our east they can certainly be found. The females are in estrus right now, attracting willing males. Unfortunately, if the lady skunk does not like one of her suitors, she sprays him, a stinky farewell to the brazen boy. Still, successful males will find a mate. Gestation lasts about 60 days, and an average litter is 4 to 7 pups. So think of the amorous skunks in these cold, cold days. Commemorations. Economic unrest. On this day in 1837, the Flour Riot took place in Lower Manhattan. A period of severe inflation had raised prices for many basic commodities and for rents. A crowd of perhaps 4,000 disaffected workers assembled at 4 p.m. in City Hall Park, where they heard impassioned speeches from a faction of the Democratic Party known as the Locofocos. Churned up by the speakers, the crowd descended on the warehouse of the merchant Eli Hart, where it was said flour was being hoarded. The warehouse was on Washington Street, near the Hudson, right where the World Trade Center stands today. In the ensuing melee, they tried to loot the warehouse. By 9 p.m., the rioters had either dispersed or been arrested. The Flour Riot was a sign of impending economic crisis that would lead later that year to the Panic of 1837. Today we mark the firebombing of Dresden, which took place on this day in 1945. The aerial bombardment of the city by the Royal Air Force resulted in a firestorm that destroyed the city and killed 22,000 people. Never forget the firebombing of Dresden. Civil rights history. On this day in 1960, the Nashville sit-ins began. Organized by the Nashville Student Movement and the Nashville Christian Leadership Council, the sit-ins protested the racial segregation of lunch counters in the city. The protesters, trained in nonviolence, simply sat at the counters and asked to be served. The sit-ins lasted until May 10th, and the lunch counters were successfully desegregated. On this day in 1979, the Guardian Angels were established by Curtis Sliwa. In a period when crime was at a high level in New York City, the Guardian Angels began riding the subways and patrolling the streets in their signature red berets and T-shirts with a winged watchful eye logo. They were unarmed. Whatever one thinks of citizen patrols or independent uniformed organizations, the Guardian Angels have generally not been implicated in any vigilante violence, and they have expanded their remit to include educational programs and wellness checks for the homeless. Finally, today is World Radio Day. It celebrates the medium of radio and the work of broadcasters. Here at Radio Long Island City, we extend fraternal greetings to our radio colleagues around the world. And that is the Observatory, Friday the 13th of February, 2026.